decision. That means decision hasn't been overturned. Nom de guerre, name of war. Give me some more. I can't think of any. Jurisprudence. What's the other one? There's a book, Corpus Juris Secundum. Give me some more. There's a lot of terms, man. Habeas corpus is Latin for have the body. Corpus delicti, which I mentioned. All right? So when you go into science, when you deal with the planets, they're in either Greek or Latin. The same thing with medicine. The same thing with the law. Most of your, right, what do you call that? Botany, the study of plants and trees. They have their botanical names, which are all Latin. So this is Rome all over again, but they're just not telling you that it's Rome.
All right, this is Revelation 3 and I'm sorry, 13 and 3. And I saw one of his heads as they were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast.
It was wounded during the time of the ancient pagan Roman Empire. It came back to life starting with America and the NATO nations. And all the world is wondering. They're wondering at this power. Because NATO is a power. It's not just America. It's led by, you normally hear about America going into the Middle East and so forth, but they're backed up by a coalition. And that's those NATO forces. Go ahead. Back to where we left off.
Back in Revelation 17 and 8. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. Which the bottomless pit? The bottomless pit represents Europe, the European, those European countries. It says, and go into perdition, meaning destruction. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder.
Can I say something? Go into perdition, meaning it once was, then it wasn't, now it's back again, and it's going to go into perdition. When it comes back as America, NATO, the EU, it's going to be destroyed. It's going to be totally destroyed. And it's talking about America because NATO is not going to be destroyed as a whole. Their power is going to be taken away, but they're still going to be around. And those nations, those European nations are going to be built up, but we're going to be running things. That's what it's talking about. And go into perdition. So what John saw in the span of time, the ancient pagan Roman Empire, which he was in, all right, he was sentenced to the salt mines on the Isle of Patmos because they killed all the other apostles and they saved him, but that was the Most High's hand doing that. And he was up in age. He had to be, if he wasn't 100 years old, he was close to 100 years old. And he had to stay on that the Isle of Patmos. He had to mine for salt. Okay, so he saw Rome in its power, Rome going down, Rome coming back as NATO, and Rome and America and NATO being destroyed. Go ahead.
It says, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world.
And that's what we're doing now. Yep. We're wondering who are the Israelites. There's a reason why the so-called Jews over there in Israel, because they're figuring if they go over there, when the Most High come back, they're going to deliver them, because they're saying that they're Jews and they're over there in the land of Israel. That goes hand in hand with Psalms, the 2nd chapter. Why do the heathen rage? Because everybody's saying who's going to be the next great power, or who's going to be the power or the nation that God is dealing with. Like the Arab world, they think they're going to be the next great power. So they're wondering who is that elect. That's why there's a media block on the Israelites, man. We're all over the place, man. If it's not GMS, if it's the IUIC. If it's not the IUIC, it's the ISUPK. And the reason why all of us go out there and go against each other, that's that spirit of competition, man. And then they're also wondering who's written in the book of life. The IUIC really believe that they're written in the Lamb's book of life. Do you know that, man? Do you know Johanna really believes he's written in the Lamb's book of life?
Yeah. Bubble eyes the same thing.
Bubble eyes, they all do, man. They all think they're the guy. They all think that that's the elect church.
Yep.
When we are the elect church.
It says, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. Which, like the apostle just broke it down, with the Rome being in power during the time of John, falling into destruction and ascending out of the bottomless pit, which is Europe, into this superpower that you have today, America included in those European nations. And yet is, because it was during that time.
Yeah, we've done lessons bringing out the similitude of Rome and America, which proves, all the more proves that, that this is really Rome. America just means bitter. In reality, this is really Rome, Yeah. And then you had the Acts of the Apostles back then during the Roman Empire. Guess what? The Acts of the Apostles are going on right now, just like it did 2,000 years ago.
Just in a different part of
just a different part of the world.
Yeah, kind of. They're just in a different part of the world. When you here in New York City, you go down there to Manhattan, Lower Manhattan, as it's known. Down there, not too far from where the World Trade Center used to be, Fulton Street, Wall Street. We used to speak down there years ago. You in Rome, man.
It looks like Rome.
Wall Street area, you go, and that's Rome. You feel like you done transported back into the movie Gladiator, man. Right. The court buildings and all that down there, you was in Rome, man. Roman numerals, the pillars, and all that stuff. This is Rome all over again, especially when you come here to New York City. Right. The way it's set up, man.
Yeah, let me say this here, right? If you want to get more into this, right, we did a series of, I would say, sit-downs back before we even had this background. It was called, if you put in America, Rome, and the Eagle, or America, Rome, and the Eagle in Prophecy. We did like a part 1 and a part 2, Like we did one way back in 2007 maybe, 2006. Then we did newer ones. And these were classics, man.
Yeah, we got, yeah.
We've always been talking about America.
Always. Hey, shit, when I was
I got to
kid,
see these again, man,
Yeah. Now, when I was a kid, and I'm pretty sure it's the same for these other apostles and elders in here, when I was in the fifth, fourth, going back to maybe the fifth, when I was in the 5th grade, the 4th grade primarily, I've since forgot it. I wish I remembered. You don't retain everything you learned in, Esau school system. But we were learning Roman numerals, man. Primarily, I remember when I got to the 4th and the 5th grade, the 6th grade.
Yep, that's right.
Yep.
Right. 4th and 4th grade, they started teaching Roman numerals and Greek mythology, and Latin vocabulary.
And they have you.
They didn't do it in the 3rd grade.
No, they went to the 4th.
Had the 4th and 5th grade.
Because around that time, I guess maybe that's when your brain is more perceptive, and then you had to do book reports on Greek mythology, on the Roman Empire. The book. You remember the book reports you had to take. Meaning you had to take a book home, and you had to read the whole book, and then pretty much give a synopsis on the book, man. Write a report on what you read. You had to be an investigative reporter. Then you got to write, okay, what was it about? Who were the characters in the book? What happened in the book? All that shit, man. Around the 4th, 5th, 6th grade, man. Roman numerals. And I remember I learned the shit. Roman history, Greek mythology. Yep. Okay, so I knew about all that shit.
They didn't teach us about the Ming Dynasty and shit like that.
No.
They taught us about the Rome. And that shows you that this is fucking Rome, man.
Yeah.
And in the ancient world, it was known as the Greco-Roman Empire because it was the Romans that borrowed from the Greeks.
Yeah.
And you had Romans that actually spoke Greek. Did not Paul speak Greek? Huh? Yeah. Canst thou speak Greek? That's a proof.
That's right.
What was that, Acts 21 and 37?
Yeah.
He spoke Greek. When Yahushua was placed on the cross, there was it was written on the placard over him, it was written King of the Jews. It was written in Hebrew, it was written in Greek, and it was written in Latin. And it said for many of the Jews read that, because you had Israelites that spoke Greek, you had Israelites that spoke, read Latin, and you had Israelites, of course, that spoke their native tongue, which is Hebrew. All right? So let's get back into this.
Revelation 17:9. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth.